Hi, and welcome to the round 5 review after the Blues suffer their first defeat of the 2024 AFL season. It was 14 goals, 14, 98. To get this, 16 goals for 100. 16 goals and 4 points. I can't believe it. In what was, to be honest, from my perspective, a pretty entertaining game of footy. If the criticism of last week against Freo was that it was a bit defensive and boring, while this game was far more entertaining. I think if you're a neutral supporter and if you take out your Carlton hat and your Carlton bias for a moment, it was a pretty entertaining game and there was not much in it at all, particularly going into the fourth quarter. And it was back and forth. It had the ebbs and the flows and the momentum swings, and it was always a kick or two on either side having the advantage. So from that perspective, really entertaining game of footy, and well done to the Crows. It was a really interesting build-up. We knew that the Crows hadn't won a game, and you expected to see their best. I was kind of hoping that we would get their best and be just a little bit too good in the end, but that would give us a really good fight, which it looked like that was going to be the case in the fourth quarter when we ran away with it by a couple of goals, but that wasn't to be. Doing the preview and speaking to some of the Adelaide supporters, and in particular some of the Crows supporters who commented on the preview video, there was a lot of frustration from their end. They hadn't been playing good footy. They weren't connected. They weren't clinical, and they weren't efficient. And they were suffering the price for it. They weren't scoring as heavily as what we saw them score last year. And yeah, it looked like they were quite far off it. But the reality is you go into a game. For us, we're 4-0. We've escaped with a close win last week. And for the Crows, they're 0-4. And so the reality is they're focusing on winning at all costs. It was almost, I don't know if maybe the Adelaide supporters in the comments can shed some light on this. I don't know if it felt like a final, but they had like a finals type focus last night. They had to win. 0-5, you're pretty much not playing finals if you're 0-5. It's been done before, but it was so important for them. Whereas for us, there seemed to be not as much of an urgency. And I thought that was an interesting part of yesterday, and the way in which both sides approached the game with their focus in front of goal and the shots that they generated and the opportunities that they took. So we get to the game. I'm there with my sister. It was great to have her back with me. I thought we looked a lot better at stoppages straight off the bat. We got the news that Chera was laid out with a hamstring strain, which we will get to that in a minute because there's a couple of those that happen. So I thought we withstood the Crows' best punch in the first quarter, and ended up by 7 at quarter time. And I thought we weren't at our best, but Adelaide were giving us their best. And so to be up by 7 at quarter time, I thought was a tick. We had quelled Dawson. He had only had one kick at quarter time. So I thought, okay, well, there's some positives that were coming out of that. Second quarter comes along. I saw Adam Saad do his hammy right in front of me. And I was hoping it was just a bit of cramp, a little bit sore. He was chasing Rankine on a lead, pulled up lame, and that was it. Saad was done for the day, which was the second hamstring in only the space of a couple of hours. The Crows had found their sharpness. It was pretty evident in that second quarter. When they had the ascendancy at stoppage, they were clean, in tight with their handballs, and they were bursting from stoppage. And then their entries were clinical. The quality of the shots that they were able to generate, particularly in that second quarter, was impressive, and they just kept coming. And we kept coming too. Corey Durden kicks a crucial goal, which was sort of the end of a play that started in the defensive 50. Ollie Hollands had an intercept mark there, and we worked the ball up the ground, and then Corey Durden kicks a really nice goal. Halftime, going into it, I felt Tight game, not much in it. Adelaide had their moments. We had our moments. 8 goals won. So we will be, at that point, we were efficient. Adelaide were efficient the whole game. We were efficient for that first half. We get into the third, and it was much of the same. So I thought it was a pretty high-quality game of footy, and particularly on the offensive end. The defensive end of the game is probably the biggest criticism for us. The way we spread, the way in which we weren't able to force Adelaide into tougher opportunities, couldn't force them wide in their forward 50 at all. And, once they got their confidence and once they found themselves, so to speak, it was always going to be a tough task. Really crucial passage of play. I thought we started getting some moments back into our favour. Elijah Hollins with the rundown tackle in our forward 50, goes back, slots the goal. Then Tex Walker, again, at this point he's kicked his fourth. And, I'm watching, I was on level 2, so I'm sitting right above it, and it just felt like he had a little bit too much separation from the outset, and Wiedering just could not get on top of him, and he was becoming a real issue. Charlie ties the game up at 75, 3/4 time. There's nothing in it. We're winning all the key metrics, which is the ironic part about last night. And, this week we're talking about, you've got to be better at stoppage and the clearance game's not that good. We were winning all those key metrics at 3/4 time, and we ended up winning those key metrics at full time, and still lost the game. So there's a lot more than just stoppage and clearance. There's a bit more that goes into it, but I get it. From our point of view, you look at those areas because they are the areas that have defined us for so long. And, I thought we had improved them. We'll talk about Sam Walsh in a minute, but he and Pitto really do clean that area up. 3/4 time, honestly, I'm thinking, what a game. This is incredible. We're in a really high quality, high scoring game here. Get to the fourth quarter. I thought we had started running away with it. Akers kicks his goal, or Cripps kicks his goal. I thought that was a key moment. Akers kicks his goal. I thought the Cripps tackle on Dawson on the wing where he pinned him, I thought that was a symbolic moment of a team that was about to win the game. I felt our intensity lift. And then I guess, there are 3 or 4, there are probably more to be honest, but there are 3 or 4 errors which, let's be honest, we've been making them for the last few weeks. I think of Harry playing on last week, Charlie the week before. They're just the first ones that come to mind. But these little moments of, I don't know what to call them, just, I don't think immaturity is the word, but we're just not sharp. And we paid the price this time around. So whether it was Rankin kicking the goal on the goal line, which maybe the ball should have been killed, whether it's Kemp and Zach Williams not killing the ball in the back pocket, and letting the ball go over the line for a throw in, and Adelaide kick a goal off that. Whether it's that final passage of play, always poor guy, he wouldn't have slept much last night thinking of that. But these are the errors. These are the costly errors that we hadn't been punished for when it came to the result of the game this year. So the irony in that passage of play at the end with Owies and Harry, they sort of got in each other's way. Owies has a pretty clean pickup, finds himself in space, and then I think changes his mind last second to dribble the ball through and didn't register a score, which literally resulted in Adelaide running the ball to the other end of the ground and winning the game. We haven't paid the price for such mistakes this season. So it did make sense. Sam Berry goes back, kicks a goal. What are you going to do? That's footy. Footy is a really fascinating game for so many reasons because it asks you to be so much. In order to win a game of football, in order to become a consistently winning team, you have to have a few elements. The game asks you to be daring. It asks you to play with passion, defensive intensity. The game rewards you if your defensive intensity is at a high level, which is probably what we saw last week. Got a little bit of good luck because of how well we defended across the 4 quarters. Whereas this time around, we didn't defend as well for the 4 quarters and we didn't get lucky in the end. And it's the ultimate leveler. I was obviously disappointed that we lost the game, but you zoom out pretty quickly. You see where we're at. You generate 28 scoring shots to 20. Your opponent kicks 16 goals for. It's not ideal. You don't want to be losing games, but it's not the end of the world. I found the rhetoric on the fan cams last night fascinating. Oh, but we've got a tough 5 games coming up. I feel like we've just played 5 tough games. So I don't know why we talk about what's happening in 5 weeks when we've just got to play next week. We lose McGovern to a hamstring. We lose Saad to a hamstring. We lose Chera to a hamstring. They're all going to be out, you would assume, for the next couple of weeks at the bare minimum. So that's not ideal. What we will do is we'll see someone else. We'll see 3 other names. The VFL will play today, filming this on a Sunday, and somebody else, 3 others will get their opportunity. So that's why it is important, I guess, to bank the wins when you can, because shit happens. Injuries happen, just like they did yesterday. And, there are going to be ebbs and flows in the season. A tough stretch is coming at some point. It happens every year. There's always going to be a low point in the year. Hopefully it's not when it matters at the end of the season. So, yeah, it's a challenge, and that's footy. And it's never going to be smooth sailing, and you're going to get losses along the way. But to come out of the first 5 games with 4 wins, that's a tick. Next week we come up against one of the form teams of the competition. Yeah, that'll be tough, and that'll be a challenge. But you got to learn. You got to learn your lessons. I always felt that we're on the right track, but we still have some things to iron out, and that just came to fruition yesterday because we hadn't ironed out some little things. We paid the price with the result, and they'll go back and review it, watch the tape. Pretty straightforward, I would have thought. Particularly with some of those errors, I think pretty straightforward. I think they all know exactly what to do the next time around to clean that up. I feel like it's a focus thing. I think it's so hard to be laser sharp every week. But I think when you are a team that is 4-0, coming up a team that is 0-4, who, let's be honest, I think all of us have Adelaide in the finals as our predictions before the season started. And I think that had a part to play. And so we've got to get back our focus and our sharpness pretty quickly. And I think playing against good teams will do that to you. That's why I'm not as concerned just yet. A few milestones. Sam Walsh. Sam Walsh. I talk about laser focus, talk about, coming in after a bit of a layoff and, the rest of the players on the field having 4 games extra experience for the season and thinking, maybe he'll take a few weeks to get into it. Literally looked like he looked better. He looked better from game 1 of 2024 than what he did last year, which was phenomenal. I think the 13 tackles was a bit of a statement that, 4 weeks ago, he was apparently walking around like an old man. And so, yeah, that was pleasing to see for Sam Walsh. And, what an incredible 100 games we've seen from him. Blake Acres, 150 games. I thought he lifted. And to be honest, I actually have Sam Walsh as player of the game and Blake Acres as the player that I thought was doing a bit. I thought he lifted, particularly in the second half. And, yeah, we move on. That's that. Yeah, we've just got to be better, got to be sharper, and got to fine-tune some things, and away we go. It feels like the season has begun. I mean, we've only experienced wins up until yesterday. Footy's not the same thing without losses. I think you can tell a lot about a team. I think you can tell a lot about anyone based off how they react to a loss. So let's see how we go about it next week, make some changes and go from there. So that was my experience. What was your experience? Where were you for yesterday's game? What did you think of it? Talk to me about the themes and issues that came up for you in the comments below, and we'll get the chat. We'll get the chat going. Have a good one. Go Blues.